For some, they've witnessed sweet victory, while others are already looking forward to the next season. And since it's just around the corner, the new 2022 F1 cars will be making their debut soon. Although met with mixed reactions from the participants and fans, new rules were made to establish better racing in the future. How will these new models change the course of the game? Stay tuned to find out more. Here are some of the adjustments and modifications teams need to abide by come 2022. The return of ground effect formula. In a nutshell, the biggest change F1 will witness in 2022 is the return of the ground effect formula, which was last adhered to in the early 1980s. Due to the growing demand in recent years, F1 decided to give in to their demands. For those unfamiliar with this effect, it's been used in automotive aerodynamics to create downforce in racing cars. For years on end, Formula One has been seeking ways to decrease the current reliance on wings for downforce, which was named as the factor behind the dirty air that makes it hard for close quarters racing, so adapting the ground effect formula has been more appealing to the regulators now more than ever. Technically speaking, the use of downforce is extremely important to airflow. As the air flows under the vehicle, it's compressed to the track, which then creates an extreme low pressure area that in turn creates a large suction underneath. To achieve this, the F1 released a standard of T-tray that will be developed by each team to make sure that they utilize the floor accordingly. In a way, it's also a developed version of the ground effects back in the 1980s, so cars won't experience sliding skirts and will use fins underneath to decrease disturbance. So you may be asking, what other changes are being made under these regulations? Quite a few actually, and several of these are in effect to the car's vehicles, which we're about to elaborate. The most prominent of these changes are the tires that will debut 18-inch rims next season. Aside from that, barge boards will now be removed and replaced with a new type of wheel bodywork, which will reduce the effects of the wake produced by the wheels in action. End plates will also be sporting a new look, which is produced with a smooth blend from the front wing elements to a single-piece end plate, upturned like an aeroplane's wing. In addition to this, we'll also see the return of the nose attached directly to the wing, which was prominent in the middle of the 1990s. The rear wing will also be redesigned, where it will be described as end plateless. Instead of plates, the rear wing will loop around into a beam wing mounting, which was the cause of vortices produced at the rear of the vehicle that was the root of cars being unable to follow each other. Gearboxes will also be halted starting 2022 until the end of 2025 to limit the R&D costs, and as a result, only one upgrade will be allowed to the gearbox specification. The use of torsion bars will also be prohibited under suspension regulations, and in its place, springs and dampeners will be used. Aside from torsion bars, inerters or heave springs will also be prohibited to simplify the suspension systems. How about the power units? Will those be replaced as well? The F1 and FIA decided that the current turbo hybrid formula will maintain as is, although there have been some discussions to replace the MGU-H. If there's any significant change for the power units as well as turbo suppliers and battery, is that these will be heavier and must be made of commercially available components, meaning no exclusive or materials are allowed. Teams also have the option of equal spec equipment, which includes fuels and software. If the teams have a certain preference or commercial agreements, they may choose not to take up this option, but manufacturers are at least required to offer up their fuels and engine maps. Another component that will be standardized is the fuel pump, so that any fuel tricks can be monitored more easily. That being said, ancillary components such as pipes will be thoroughly checked. Fuels must also include 10% sustainably sourced ethanol, which was increased from the previous 5.75% and will continue to rise in the years to come. Several parts will also be systemized under the new regulations so that teams can create the desired on-track product and results. New classifications will be implemented for each part, namely listed parts, standard parts, and transferable parts. To put it simply, listed parts will include components that a team must design by themselves, like the majority of the aero parts, whereas standard parts are components that everyone must use, which include pieces of pit stop equipment and wheel rims. On the other hand, transferable parts are those that can be bought and sold in between teams, such as gearboxes. In line with this, several teams may continue buying certain parts from other teams, just like how Haas buys several components from Ferrari, like how Red Bull's transferable parts are used by AlphaTauri. But that's not all. The new rules stipulate 2 new classifications of parts, which are prescribed and open source parts. For prescribed parts, all teams must design to specifications to a T, which include front floor T-tray, wheel hubs, and wheel aerodynamics, whereas open source parts may be commonly designed and used by all, which includes brakes, DRS mechanism, and steering wheels, although some parts may change in classification. For example, steering wheels will be classified as standard components by 2023, and the year after, standardized tires will be prohibited by 2024. Will there be new safety features incorporated in 2022? As of current, one of the common problems F1's been addressing is on-track debris, which, if left unattended, can not only interrupt races but also cause accidents and damages to the vehicles. To solve this problem, the new safety features will see to it that rubber membranes will be covering several parts to prevent them from being shattered easily. Although it may not eliminate all of the debris, the feature will at least minimize on-track debris as well as put a stop at the detachment of front wings from the vehicles. In addition to that, several parts at the rear of the car will be tethered to keep them in place in case of an accident. For increased energy absorption, the nose will also be longer, the side impact structures fortified, and the cockpit enlarged to accommodate larger and taller drivers. All these adjustments will see an increase in weight from the current mass of 752 kilograms to 775 kilograms. The reason for elongating the nose and fortifying the side impact structures came from FIA's study of Antoine Hubert's fatal Formula 2 accident at Spa-Francorchamps back in 2019. The most important ones are the front nose. It can absorb an impact about 50% more energy. The side of the car is also about twice as strong to lateral impact, FIA's Nicholas Tambazis explained in a statement. He also added, "We've made improvements to the headrest for the driver. To the fuel tank, we've made it much more difficult for debris to be spread out on the track, which would make it dangerous for other cars, so we've been working really hard on all the safety methods." Thanks to the collaborative efforts between Formula One's Ross Brawn and Pat Simmons, as well as FIA's Nicholas Tambazis, the safety features have finally been improved after over 4 years of hard work and research for the development of the 2022 car. At the launch event, F1 Simmons, who also serves as the company's chief technical officer, shared about the challenges they faced during the development phase. "We've started the journey in 2017, so we spent longer on this car than I think any other car that's been produced in Formula One in terms of getting some regulations together," he started. Now, aerodynamics generally in a team is developed in 3 ways. It's developed using computational fluid dynamics, CFD, or sort of a wind tunnel on a computer if you like. It's done using an actual wind tunnel, and it's done using the car itself. Now, we didn't have access to the latter, so we've really concentrated on our CFD and backed it up with some wind tunnel testing. Simmons also said the use of CFD has been much more sophisticated, but we're able to move forward thanks to Amazon and AWS, who partnered with them and enabled them to run the sophisticated simulations that saved them 70% in time to what they were initially doing. Ross Brawn also chimed in and welcomed these changes, which will provide more excitement in the motorsport world. So this is the start of a new journey, new philosophy, a new culture where the raceability of these cars is going to be vital to future Formula One, Braun said. And why do we do that? We do that because we want to entertain the fans. We want to engage the fans. We want new fans to come into the sport. We want to respect and maintain our existing fans so they remain excited about the pinnacle of motorsport. And that covers everything you need to know on how the future of F1 will look like. Are you in favor of all these changes? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel before you go.